Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this side event, which is organized by the Ministry for the Environment, Energy and Enterprise, Ministry of Malta. And the title of this side event is precisely focused on climate resilience tourism. The need for a nexus through water, energy, food, ecosystem resilience in the tourist sector. I would like to start by introducing our minister, the Minister for Environment, Energy and Enterprise, who is also responsible for climate action, Minister Miriam Dalli, to take the floor and give us her keynote speech. Thank you.
Honorable guests, distinguished delegates, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this event. We are so proud to be co-hosting with the Union for the Mediterranean. Thanks to all the organizing team, particularly Ambassador Simon Borch and also Manuel Sapiano. A special thanks to both of you and also to our distinguished speakers that we will have during this event. As a matter of fact, this event today at COP27 is already a strong signal that the experience of Mediterranean countries really matters, particularly when it comes to both adaptation and mitigation of climate change. These are the experiences, but we will dealing also with the challenges that we would like to share with the rest of the world on a global platform such as COP. Allow me to congratulate the Union for the Mediterranean for the efforts made to ensure that the Mediterranean is given its due importance during COP27. Such presence ensures that the experience of Mediterranean countries in both adaptation and mitigation can be shared on such a prominent global platform as the COP27. And rest assured that the Union for the Mediterranean has Malta's continuous support in these endeavours. We strongly acknowledge the key role of the Union within the Mediterranean region in supporting and also fostering energy efficiency and water conservation. And this should continue through regional strategies being developed in both such important areas. We are strong believers in having strong Mediterranean strategies, so much so that the Union for the Mediterranean strategy was actually launched in Malta during the Mediterranean ministerial meeting of 2017. And this means that we have very strong interest in supporting the development of this strategy. The Mediterranean region is already strongly feeling the effects of climate change, with temperatures rising 20% above the global average, and the time for just speaking about these issues are long gone. It's time to discuss and implement concrete solutions for climate action. And I believe that we need to focus so much more on the energy-water nexus and its impact on different sectors, particularly the tourism sector that we are focusing on today. I'm saying this because as Mediterranean countries, one of our key economic industries is by far tourism, offering consistent employment figures across countries in the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean is the world's leading tourism destination for both international and domestic tourism, and it has been described as vital for many countries. And I believe that such description depicts precisely the value of tourism, as figures show that tourism represents over 70% in terms of production value and gross value added for Mediterranean countries. And inevitably, this causes pressure on any country's infrastructure, including in particular energy and also water resources and infrastructure. And this is more so the case in tourism hotspots, where tourism, particularly seasonal tourism, results in increased demand, which extends high pressure on already stretched local and national resources. Now, when it comes to coastal tourism, there are obvious concerns related to water pollution, marine litter, and also waste generation, to name just a few. However, there is also the negative impact of resource and energy inefficiencies on the generation of greenhouse gas emissions, which, if not addressed properly, will not only result in impacting negatively the environment, but will ultimately result in poor economic and employment performances in our region. So this means that tourism development policies need to be looked into seriously to take full account of the impact of tourism zones on the local communities, and seeking to fully integrate tourism within the local urban framework. So, like any other economic industry, tourism policies cannot be developed in isolation. I'm a firm believer that the tourism sector has a great potential to continue developing into an environmentally and also an economically sustainable activity. But to do so, we have to support research and innovation in the sector and also allow innovative ideas to grow and flourish. And this applies for many areas and for many sectors that have a direct impact on climate change. So I will speak about some different ideas we had, because, for example, in Malta we recently hosted the Startup Festival, bringing together people who are developing innovative ideas that can provide solutions into some of the most pressing issues included in this area. The future depends on those who are able to think outside the box, who can find effective solutions to today's problems. And our entrepreneurs are also coming up with innovative solutions themselves, solutions that can address both energy efficiency and also water efficiency. And they're doing this because it pays them, but it's good for the environment as well. So this means that businesses can be profitable whilst doing good. And because we believe that the private sector should be part of our transition towards a decarbonized economy, we are prioritizing those investments that are both digital and sustainable from an environmental perspective. And we are doing this by providing incentives to those companies that are investing to ensure sustainability and also to reduce their carbon footprint. What can take us a long way in this regard, I believe, is pushing forward ESG criteria to be launched in board decisions. Experience in Malta has showed us that those companies that have incorporated ESG criteria in their business models are reaping the benefits both from an environmental perspective but also from a financial perspective. Through the launch of our ESG platform, we have seen companies registering positive results, including, among others, for example, an average decrease of 8% in CO2 emissions, a decrease of around 9% in waste consumption, and a decrease of almost 31% when it comes to water wastage. No wonder that investors are getting more excited about investing in green projects and also companies. So this means that it makes economic sense to go greener. Now, being a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean, we have been developing different solutions to address the challenges that we have to face. For example, going back to tourism, the Maltese government is heavily supporting tourism establishments to achieve higher energy and water use efficiency levels through a dedicated program named GUEST. And this program is being coordinated by Malta's Energy and Water Agency. This program invests in both guiding hoteliers in upgrading their establishments to achieve higher efficiency levels in the use of energy and water resources, as well as informing tourists and guests on all the small actions they can take when staying in tourism establishments to contribute to a more environmental sustainable stay. There is also a long-term framework for sustainable tourism in Malta. Now, all these initiatives are ultimately targeting increased investment in greening our economy and promoting an eco-certification scheme. The eco-certification scheme, managed by Malta's Tourism Authority, involves an audited system with frequently upgraded criteria for tourism establishments to achieve and maintain their sustainability. The scheme covers already 15% of our hotels And we aim to upgrade further this scheme by providing support to industry and also their investments in improving water and energy consumption and also reducing waste. We strongly believe that such initiatives should be promoted and replicated across industries and across regions. The sharing of best practices will help us improve our collective competitiveness as we face climate change. Before concluding, I would like to once again thank the Union for the Mediterranean, to thank Mr. Vangelis Konstantianos from Global Water Partnership Mediterranean, and thanks also to Engineer Charles Buttigieg from the Energy Water Agency, who has been working on the guest project and who will be providing us with more information about this initiative today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you indeed, Minister, for setting the pace to explore how we shift the paradigm for this shift and becoming more action-oriented in looking at these prospects in a synergy form of way. And with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Vangelis Konstantianos from the Global Water Partnership of the Mediterranean, who will be giving us a presentation on this remarkable project, the WEFE Nexus context of a climate-resilient tourism sector in the Mediterranean. Mr. Vangelis Konstantianos, you have the floor. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, Minister, Ambassador, dear colleagues, it's an honor to be here today in this event under the leadership of Malta and under the host of the Union for the Mediterranean to talk about this great opportunity that we have ahead of us. I think, dear Minister, after your speech, we could finish the session and get into a discussion because you have said it all. And this presents the great experience that Malta has in this agenda, both on the side of tourism, but also on the conservation of natural resources. What I will try to do with this presentation is to address what you have addressed, providing some of the examples, some of the figures maybe, and some of the ideas that can make the bridge of the knowledge that countries like Malta hold towards other countries in the region that may need it, and where the potential of saving of water, of energy, of going better with our food security and also protecting our environment can get into play. The Global Water Partnership as an organization is a multi-stakeholder platform that assists governments through the engagement of stakeholders in advancing the Nexus approach together in an integrated way, is ready to assist in making these steps. So let's look into the tourism and climate challenges the way you have described them exactly. First of all, why the Med? For the reasons that we all know, we are in a very touristic place here in the COP. So for the sea and the sun, but it's not only that. The vast majority of the tourist destinations are in areas of environmental value, of high environmental value, including wetlands, and of high cultural value. And over there, what a surprise, we have scarcity of major natural resources like water. And 85% of those that are traveling to destinations like those concentrate in summer, and we all know the high objective of opening or extending the touristic period. On the other hand, what we witness is that over the last 100 years and so, we have already this increase of almost 1.45%, and this is higher than the degree of the pace of warming in other regions. And the forecast is that by 2050, these unbearably hot days of plus 35 degrees will double. So more tourism, more pressure into fragile ecosystems and water resources in the wrong place, in the wrong time, in a region under stress, but at the same time with great economic value, as you will see later on. So there is a simple math here saying that higher investment would be needed in order to increase the levels of response to the wildfires, to coastal flooding, to sea level rise, and at the same time to health issues that relate to all these also to climate change and many other risks that relate to that. Just to give an economic figure here that relates to tourism, and I have picked one by the wine makers in France, because this represents every year 10 million of tourists visiting such farms to get this experience. So the French government has been subsidizing these wine growers over the last 5 years by 200 millions per year instead of 70 million over the last 7 years, the period 2007 to 2014. Why is that? Because the situation out of the droughts, out of the extreme events related directly with climate change have brought this economy, this part of the economy into extremes. So the government has to get in. This is part of tourism and relates somehow with water, definitely on the side of production, but also on the cultivation, but also on the side of production. Now, going into the risks, this is a map with hotspots about floods and sea level rise. We see some of the hotspots in the Mediterranean. Of course, we see the similar situation in other parts of the region. The critical message here is that it's going to get harder, it's going to get more expensive. And talking about money, tourism represents something like between 10 to 15% in Mediterranean countries' GDP. I think for Malta is around 15%. So you're in the higher part. And of course, when we get to become tourists, leaving our homes and visiting these nice hotels or the areas of our destinations, we tend to become greedy. So we consume 2 or 3 times more of water, of energy, and of food instead of what we do back home. We can see that in our breakfast time with these full plates that nobody will consume, and they know when they get, and we know when we see them on the table. Same is with energy. Last night, preparing this presentation, out of bad design in my hotel, I had to open 5 lights. I'm ashamed to say so. I had to open 5 lights in the room because the light was not appropriate, instead of having a very small light on my desk to make this presentation. So this is wrong design in a very well functioning hotel where I'm in. So the scale breeds scale, and the more it is the forecast of spending in the tourism sector, and we have seen that after the pandemic, the more it will be on the consumption of natural resources. So the greater the investment by those that are ready to come and pay for the experience, the greater the cost it will be on the side of the tourism industry. Let's take an example of consumption partners looking into the laundry of sheets and towels. In 3-star hotels, under a study done by McKinsey in 2020, there is a minimum of 12% that goes to water consumption for laundry out of the total of 100% consumption in a hotel for any use. This is a 3-star hotel. So another type of tourism, another profile of tourists. In luxury hotels, this amount goes up to 50%. This is a very telling figure. In smaller scale hotels with another profile of tourists, the way that the whole thing is managed or is being used is totally different when we go to luxury hotels. So there is a lot to be done there on the awareness part, but it's a lot also to be done on the way that is being managed by the hotel industry itself. And we should not forget who is the big eater, let's say, in this nexus of resources in hotel. And this is the food supply chain, where you have most of the waste on water, on energy, in order to have the food supply that goes into the tourism, into the hotels, for example. And it's the end of the day, as we have started, it's again the economy, but on the other side, because all of this, any step of this, translates into economic cost for the businesses. Again, the Minister highlighted that, what can be the savings that can be done on the side of this important private sector businesses, investments, and capitalization for the countries. Now, how we shift the concept then, how we go into a new paradigm. It was said at the COP by Mark Carney, the UN Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance. He said that Scaling climate technologies innovation will require quantum leaps in progress, particularly in developing countries. And here we are talking mostly about transferring the experiences from the countries that they have it to the developing countries in the region. Maybe they have not made the investment so far, or they don't have the structure yet in place to do it. And the point made, and that was an important one, and goes beyond the water sector, the energy sector, and so on, actually the water sector. He said that think of what happened with telecommunications some years ago, where certain countries skipped the landlines and went straight to the mobile. So there was a technology jump there, a high jump, and it needs to be made for energy, it needs to be made for water, and it needs to be made for the nexus of these two with food security and environmental protection. This touches all industries and definitely touches the tourism industry. Here we have a nexus of the nexus, and this is the way that the Union for the Mediterranean approaches these issues, and GWP is proud to serve these two agendas, the nexus, the water, energy, food ecosystem nexus, and the water employment migration. These are combined under the framework of the Union for the Mediterranean, the water strategy, for the very simple reason that in the point of all is the employability, the entrepreneurship, and the income generation line of work, including the private sector engagement. And this is that is felt that can provide the solutions into the high challenges that come together with the higher demand on water, higher demand on energy, higher demand of food, and definitely the environmental challenges that come along. Together with all this, let's keep in mind some of the keywords that we often forget: economy, not only the mainstream economy, but the blue economy, the circular economy, the sustainable consumption and production. Here is where the agenda of the Barcelona Convention and UNEMAP is really of high importance, with great experience in all these sectors: the job creations, the new markets, the gender, the youth. Again, the minister mentioned that, and all this out of the COVID-19 recovery. In events like this, where there are hardly masks around and we are all together again, we tend to forget what has happened 2 years ago, not so far away. But the marks in the economy are still there. And all this get into a greater concept of a source-to-sea approach. This is a holistic, integrated water resources management approach that looks from, to the origins or to the source of water down into the whole river basin, and what comes along with that: the cities, the villages, the cultivation, the industry, and goes down to the coastal area and, of course, to the marine environment. And here is where we have great institutions that are supporting this agenda. Again, the Union for the Mediterranean, the Barcelona Convention for so long, including with the MED program of the Barcelona Convention. Now, going practical, and without want to get into details, I will go through these slides relatively fast in order to conclude. We have the technology now available. There is no rocket science. We need to find enough of investment. First of all, we need to find enough of investment, make the framework, make it happen. We have the solar power capacity, and it can implement it in smaller and bigger scale for all the benefits. We have the hybrid water heating systems well applied, available in the markets. We can have multiple returns there, both on the side of water security and energy security. We do have the treatment of wastewater, grey water. We know how to reuse stormwater management, especially for non-potable users. And here is the big challenge, whether we can get that to be for irrigation or potable users instead. Can we go back into the presentation, please? And of course, we have the seawater desalination capacity. At the Nexus side event about an hour ago, His Excellency the Minister of Egypt presented a whole system of seawater desalination supported by Prima in this very room, and the advancements that have been made. So the technology is indeed available, and it can be combined. And this is the critical thing: not to stay in the two-side technology of water and energy, or water and food, or energy and food, but to go for a real nexus where the benefits of all these technologies can work together in this system of tourism in order to produce the desirable results. Now, we have pilots and we have applications and we have countries of experience, and we have heard on that. And we do need to make that step, and this is normally done through pilots. And pilots will happen. They already happen. Okay, they are out there. They are practiced by big tourist or hotel chains. The big question here is how we get from the big into the mainstream, so the small and medium enterprises of our countries, where the big part of the economy is and where the big consumption of these natural resources remains. And here is where we get into some critical issues, and I finish with this slide. The first one has to do with governance. We need to enhance the coordination among the institutions, including the local authorities, and we need to make it feasible through enabling regulations. This is an overall IWRM, water governance, energy governance must do. But when it gets into the hotels, it needs to be adapted, it needs to become specific. Again, the minister mentioned the engagement of the tourism authority in Malta. The role there is critical because they are the coordinators of the sector, and they are the focal point with all the other institutions and ministries engaged in that. Then it's financing. Okay, Hilton can do it, but and all the others like Hilton and so on. But what happens with these vast, medium-sized enterprises that, as we said before, they master the big part of the tourism? Are they able to make this investment? Maybe yes, maybe no, probably no. So here we need to adapt in order to meet the content, the scale, and the capacities of the recipients. This medium-sized hotel, those with 100 rooms, 150 rooms, not the 1,000 rooms. So here we have to have realism. And we hear a lot of nice things about IFIs, about endless money that can be utilized if projects are bankable. Realism is the foundation of a bankable project. So who you address. In order to do that and links with governance, this needs to get into this famous 5 or 7 year planning of the public sector, because part of that would definitely come out of public investment because before we engage the private investment. So this is an integral part of the finance. And definitely it has to engage commercial financing, and this is the key for everything. This is the famous private sector engagement line. In order to do that, it needs to find the way to the market and to the real economy. If a hotel needs to buy the technology from Australia, a hotel in Tunisia needs to buy the technology from Australia, it will never be done. I will tell you for the very simple reason that when it leaves the customs, it won't be given authority in an easy way. So realism, technologies are available. The more we combine, the more we do an actual Nexus technologies, the more of Nexus return we are going to get. Let us not forget the nature-based solutions. Let us not forget the more advanced like digitalization, Internet of Things, machine learning. They are applicable at the scale that we are discussing. Last but not least, the awareness and the engagement. Nothing will happen without engaging the businesses, engaging the visitors, making believe. This is the key thing. Engage through building trust. Explain what is to give and what is to take. It's very simple market discussion. Engage the youth and the female. Great opportunities there, especially on the entrepreneurship. Capacitate and sustain the commitment. Maybe this is one of the critical. We go with pilots, we implement something, everybody's very happy, we cut ribbons of nice interventions, and then we go. If there is no consistent policy behind, again I will mention Malta because it's a prime example of that. On sustainability of committing, nothing is going to happen. Thank you very much for your attention. I know I was long.
Thank you very much, Vangelis, for that remarkable presentation. And we go straight to an example in Malta with Engineer Charles Buttigieg, who will give us a presentation on the GUEST project, which is a perfect example of what Vangelis has been talking about. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Your Honorable Minister, Your Excellency, and colleagues and friends. I will continue to build upon what my previous speakers have said. tourism on the islands and then the whole Mediterranean is very, very important, right? The figures on the screen now explain themselves. I do not need to give much more information. Tourism was on the rise the past years, but COVID happened, and of course it happened in the Mediterranean and all the world. But we are recovering again, and now is the time for enterprises to invest and make their profits more sustainable. At the agency, we have a small team that was set up about a year and a half ago, that's got the intention to drive the message out there of energy efficiency and water conservation. It is important, like the previous speaker has said, that we understand the stakeholder, their expectations, as well as their limitations, because that is when we can then focus on how to reach out to them with the proper scheme or proper initiative, right? Currently, we're a small team of technical people, but obviously we need the input of the other sections of the agency, and more important, of the PR experts within our agency, because media is very important, and delivering the message of energy efficiency and water conservation is a must. This is a small list of the work we've been doing the past year and a half, like promoting energy audits and SMEs, and I'll give more information on energy audits and their importance later. Supporting R&I, even on PVs, on water conservation, on water quality. Going to households and micro SMEs and explaining the importance of energy efficiency and water conservation. These past years, I think we've visited well over 1,000 of households, and now we're starting with micro SMEs to explain to them the importance of energy efficiency. And since about a year ago, as we said, we've also been approaching voluntary organizations, because we need to support these organizations as they give a very important part of our social life in their own free time, many of them, and they need the support they can get so that also they can achieve energy efficiency and water conservation in the best method. Here I mentioned two initiatives, let's call them initiatives, which we are doing in collaboration with stakeholder representatives. The importance of stakeholder representatives and the coordination with them is a must, because they would know how to reach out to their specific stakeholder, what barriers they would have, and they would facilitate this discussion and obviously action. MERCHA is a collaborative project with the Malta Chamber of SMEs. It's specific on food retail enterprises, and we make is a project with the Malta Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where we are looking at the manufacturing sector, but also this spilling over to the hospitality sector and to other small enterprises. And we have been doing seminars, technical seminars, finance seminars on financing. We're doing mentoring, very, very important. Mentoring is we're seeing it very, very important. Like we've been having the non-SMEs, the bigger SMEs, explaining to the smaller SMEs on practical ways to achieve efficiency, energy efficiency. And then there's guest. In guest, to say it very simple, we're planning to approach guest houses. We'll be doing energy and water in 30 guest houses, where there'll be assessment of their energy and water use, and identification of improvements, and we are also addressing the guest. And this is very, very important. The first thing we did to understand the sector of guest houses was to hold focus groups with them. We reached about 20 to 30 of these guest houses to evaluate their interpretation of sustainability, the type of energy and water investment which they had already done or which they thought they could do, their awareness regarding existing opportunities for investments, because many times the owners of guest houses do not have any knowledge at all about support that can be given to them. And of course, we explored also the possibility of a tighter community representation between these small group of SMEs, the guest houses. The findings, I think they're all onto sustainability and energy conservation and water conservation. The problem which sort of stood out by them was the importance of the guest. Many of the guests literally says, like my previous speaker has said, they tend to be careless. I want to mention one example. Mr. Vangelis mentioned it earlier. We've had one of these guest houses who actually told us that in the middle of August, he was asked for winter bed sheets in the middle of August. Yes, because they wanted to put the air conditioning down to 16 or less. It's really waste, you know. Some of the guest houses had already invested, but of course they explained that the sustainable options are not the cheaper ones, and financing or the support of these initiatives would be of help. Madam. Some of them again explained, some of them expressed their interest in having sector-specific schemes and assistance, which we are doing. And some of them also showed that many times schemes are directed towards the bigger enterprises and not to the smaller ones. And that is why I think one of the actions which we are doing now is addressing these smaller enterprises so that they also feel that they're part of the community and they can invest themselves. So, as I mentioned before, we're planning 2 actions. The first one is the energy audit, which we'll be doing 30 of them. We issue the tender. This will cost around 75,000 euros to conduct these 30 audits. But we know that these audits, they will reap benefits more than the 75K over the number of years, because we're planning not only to concentrate on the 30 SMEs, which we're doing, the guest houses, extended it further to the other guest houses, and then spill over to the hundreds, I think, of smaller providers of tourism sector, like flats or villas. So there will be auditors that will be going to these SMEs, and then we have an individual approach to them, hand-holding them, explaining to them what can be done, since many of them, they do not have the technical expertise. Furthermore, this exercise would also indicate if there are key common weaknesses in the energy and water management within the sector, so this can be specifically addressed within the schemes. as I said earlier, the guest is very, very important, right? We have to address the guests, and we're planning to provide the guests with gadgets, so that whilst they are staying at the hotel, they can actually appreciate more the energy and water, which they'll be using. Here we'll be providing towels, bags, and kids' bags. Before concluding, I want to say why we are doing these energy and water audits and how to make them more efficient. The energy and water audit needs the collection of data, measurements, analysis, and most importantly, recommendations. It's very important that to reap benefit that these enterprises collate past fuel bills and of course explain to the energy auditor their operation. What is very important, I think, in every energy audit is the discussion between the energy auditor and the enterprise. It's important so that the energy auditor can understand the operations, and it is very important that at the end of the audit, another meeting is held between the auditor and the enterprise and the guest house, so that they can start understanding their energy and water conservation, and they will understand the recommendations that the energy and water would be providing. It is very, very important to specify to the energy auditor that he has to indicate possible financial support. So it's very, very important. Like I said, we plan to do 30 guest houses, but we will not stop there, and we'll plan to help and inform the guests as much as possible not only through the gift bags, because the gift bags are one thing, but it's very important to continue with education and media support. Thank you very much.
We have online two speakers, which I would like to pass on immediately to Barbara, please, because we are running very late. Barbara is from Sicily, and she will be also giving us an explanation of their particular experiments and projects that they have been doing from her center. Thank you. Barbara, you have the floor.
Yeah, good morning to everybody. I will be very, very quick because I understood very late. And so, yes, I would like to talk to you about the consumerless model, a model developed during two projects financed by the Interreg Med, where the Energy Water Agency of Malta was the lead partner, and to really show, also answering to our colleague from the Global Water Partnership, that we addressed about 5 years ago the problems to involve and to engage the small and medium facilities, and because we really believe that they are the big part of the economy of tourism, and also the difference between the different territories, so the ambassador of our territory. Before to go inside the consumerless model, I would like to summarize what already you said, and that we discussed during an international event in March with the support of the Amani Institute, the Evermind, the Travel Foundation, just to focus how to shift from the crisis to the new opportunities for the future of tourism industry. And I would like to use some of their words and slides to have also another point of view that is a little focus on social aspect also. So tourism, what is tourism? Is the act and process of spending time away from home in pursuit of recreation, learning, relaxation, and pleasure. But what we need to take care also is how Tiziano Tersani highlighted a few years ago in Italian journalist, that we live in a no-sense system based on growth and profit, whose goal is to make us healthier, richer, more beautiful, but ultimately less and less happy, because the economy is founded on a series of criteria and values that exclude the most important of all, life. So what means this, that when we talk about recreation, relaxation, learning, and so on, we need to understand what means for us, what means for travelers. And first of all, we need to really understand if we are exploiting the destination to death, or we are making it attractive to live in for citizens. And how you said already, we are a lot of things issues to considering talking about tourism, from the biodiversity collapse, climate change, economic recession, COVID-19 in the last years, and over tourism that during these years, I mean, we need to take seriously in account the dark side of the tourism industry. That means that we are transforming everything in a monoculture of globalization, destroying the concept of diversity. And this brings also to citizens to consider sometimes tourists as terrorists. So, I mean, we divided the connection between the community and visitors. And so we need to come back asking ourselves the opportunities related really to the community, to the territory, the characteristics that they can offer really, and the pleasure, what they can really offer, the diversity of this territory. And so what we would like to focus at in our model is not talk about destination in general, but talk about hospitable destination, because the people, the communities has to recognize self as a collective feeling that lives in that place. That means also take care of an environment, take care of the territory. And so our slogan is tourism is not a resource, community and territory are. So we need to also to learn from experience that are around us, that are taking care about this. And the destination is never a place, but a new way of seeing things. And with this imagination, I would like to close this first overview with these fantastic words of Mohamed Yunus that say, if we can imagine something, there is a good chance it will happen. If we don't imagine it, it's practically impossible for it to happen. Imagination is the destination, and I would like to add the first destination. And we had this imagination, this destination in mind, where we try to consider in our project that hospitality, so not only tourists, but hospitality of the territory, will save the world. Because I'm not entering here, but hospitality means a lot of things: peace, democracy, rights, and so on. So what we made in the consumerless approach, because first of all it's an approach, and after became a model and label and guidelines and everything, is to create this string connection agreement between public actors and business community that agree on a common will, be a sustainable destination that is able to valorize local culture, local economy, supporting local industry, and contributing to growth together. And so the destination are encouraged to rebuild their idea of tourism, investing in sustainable principle, and reaching also alternative market and a positive image that they need. And so to be a consumerless destination became an added value for competitiveness. That is something that they need. So they are a reason, another reason to valorize natural resource, ecosystem system, cultural heritage, local economy, and so on. And so what we created, the model is a ready-to-use package that in this moment is adopted in 9 countries, from Malta, Italy, Spain, France, Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, Greece, and Cyprus, involving more than 40 municipalities and 300 facilities that adopted this label proposed in this model that is managed by local committee to do what? To preserve ecosystem service, to minimize resource use, energy and water, to reduce the amount of generated waste, ensuring the well-being of citizens that are the first consumers of our facilities, of our local economy, and visitors. And to do this, we need to recognize something, and we can recognize in this level, in the consumerless mad. We are consumerless mad. What it means, I mean, when you are consumerless med, you are ambassador of a principle. You are ambassador of a model, of an ambition, and the facilitators, the entrepreneurs, the citizens are the first ambassador of the territory, and we support them with communication, with gadget, to make also the visitor able to be more and more sustainable, or to become it, as for example this game that help children to discover what it means to be a consumerless traveler. And all this is supported at public level with some good practice, demonstrative measure, because everything has to be jointly, private and public has to work together with a unique marketing strategy to show how the territory is sustainable. And for example, we installed this green wall for treating and reusing the water from shower to be reused, for example, in the toilet. And we used also this for communicate, for grow up, also at public, at private level. Or as this experience in Spain, where they use this performance to make people aware about the waste management on the beach. Or as for example, this very nice experience in Cyprus, where the member of the local committee financed directly these demonstrative measures, as the installation of rainwater collection, or the reuse of wastewater treatment for public use, the installation of street fountains, the energy solution for street lights, or solar power energy banks, because you have also things that everything is talking about tourism, but are public service. Installation of recycling and for separate waste on beach, or this installation of junk collection point. I'm going very quick because I mean, there are, just to show you many of the examples, that the very nice things is also that the consumerless destination are sharing and improving their experience, sharing these good practice and installing in their territory. Also innovative, as this exploring the potential of the Poseidonia buckets to transform in biofuel. And everything is the added value is to involve always citizens, to involve artists, to involve visitors during activities, showcasing this aim and this commitment, common commitment. And the people that are living the territory, that are working that territory, they need to talk about the territory, the destination, highlighting what there means for them sustainability, that means also social, economic, and environmental. And so we use them, I mean, we create this role as ambassador for them, and we create all various race campaign to showcase their activities. And everything is in this platform, where you can find all the documentation about the model and the guidelines, for sure, to replicate the experience, but also all the destinations, the consumer destination, all the facilities, because it's a marketing. Tourism means also marketing all the stories. And our slogan is: a good place to live is a good place to visit. Here the link if you want, and the finished. And the most important things, I will close with this Nelson Mandela sentence, is one of the most difficult things is not to change society, but to change yourself. I mean, we are the visitor of this destination, and we need to change, first of all, us to be more responsible.
Dottoressa Barbara Sarnari, thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you for being quite quick about it. We thank you from the Euro-Mediterranean Center for Sustainable Development. And we pass on to our final speaker for concluding remarks, Dr. Tahani Slit, from the Head of Central Department for External Cooperation at the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in Egypt. Dr. Tahani, in your good hands to conclude. I'm afraid we have not more than 5 to 7 minutes maximum, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Simon. And also here, I'd like to say that I don't have much to add on the regional level on, of course, what we have heard very interestingly from Her Excellency, the Minister of Malta, and from Vangelis, Engineer Charles, and Dr. Barbara. So these have composed the pieces of the puzzle, and we need to put them together in order to benefit at the regional level, on the Mediterranean level, from all the experiences and the know-how that have been collected. And I will share with you very briefly Egypt's experience in this regard, because actually I'm not much of a tourism person, but I have done the exercise in order to share with you our experience in that domain. Estimates for Egypt suggest that the combined effect of climate change on water resources, tourism revenue, and coastal resources, agriculture, and human health through air pollution and water stress represent between 2 and 6% of Egypt's GDP by 2060. On the tourism front, the Red Sea, home to 2009 types of coral and over 5% of the world's coral reefs, is a major contributor. Coastal tourism in particular has been estimated to account for about half of Egypt's tourism, attracting a total of 13.6 million visitors and contributing about 12% of Egypt's GDP in 2019. The economic benefits of coastal tourism to local communities are projected to be adversely impacted due to coral reef bleaching, retreat of mangrove areas in the Red Sea, and coastal erosions on the Mediterranean coast. The estimates from the High-Level Panel for a Sustainable Ocean Economy presented at COP25 suggested that by 2100, Egypt could lose about 5.6 billion in revenue compared to 2019, which is quite a big amount. Egypt's marine environment is characterized by uniquely rich and diverse marine life that extends over more than 3,200 kilometers across the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Such natural resources are defined as key tourist attraction sites, with 80% of all tourism activity in Egypt associated with marine life in the Red Sea. In Egypt, climate change is most reflected in severe weather fluctuation and flash floods, in addition to cold winds in winter and intense heavy heat very early in the summer. Another aspect of climate change in Egypt is the rise in the sea level. This phenomenon was supposed to happen gradually over the course of 30 years. However, as early as 2019, a rise in sea level rise caused an increase in the desalination of the northern lands in the Nile Delta. A 1 meter rise in sea level is expected to submerge 20% of the land area of the delta by the end of the 21st century. Salinization of land and water resources is expected to have significant impact on agriculture, fishing, and availability of freshwater resources. Egypt's Red Sea coral reefs are also at risk of bleaching due to increasing sea temperatures and acidification. Nowadays, water issues are receiving significant attention from the government and the private sector and civil society. Ever-increasing demand for water, coupled with the effect of climate change, is escalating pressure on water resources in most parts of the world, including in many coastal and island tourism destinations. Fresh water is a critical element in tourism. However, the way in which water is associated with tourism is not always clear-cut. Water can be both a direct or indirect input in tourism-related activities. The tourism industry in Egypt faces a multitude of significant sustainability-related challenges that need to be resolved. One of these challenges are water consumption. Sustainability tries to reduce water consumption through water efficiency and management programs, and investment in water-saving technology in rooms, facilities, and attraction reduce cost. Greater efficiency and improved management allows for the increase of number of rooms and visitors in water-constrained destinations. With regard to the most water-consuming factor, which is irrigation, considerable reductions can be achieved through alternative gardening, the choice of species landscape in landscaping, and many other attentions that can be done. Egypt is a world-renowned touristic destination and is best characterized as a low-cost mass tourism magnet. According to the IMF, the tourism industry employed 10% of the population and contributed to about 12% of the GDP pre-pandemic. During COVID-19, the tourism sector went down to 7.7% of the total GDP, especially with a high level of uncertainty compared to 4.2% in the previous year.
Dr.
Egypt
Salit, can I ask you please to conclude, if you don't mind? Sorry about that.
Okay, I close now?
If possible, please, because there's another session after this one.
Okay, I'll just say very briefly some effort that we are doing. We have a ICCM project, which is a global green climate fund to provide coastal defense soft structures. We promote the use of renewable energy, such as solar PV power plants, implanting energy efficient improvement through LED lighting. And we have also a Go Green initiative in 2020 that have been launched, having for the first time a portal for sustainable tourism, a Bar Al Aman initiative for the fisheries, and also a partnership for the protection of marine life. Not last but not least, but this is very important to mention, is an initiative that have been launched yesterday, the day before yesterday, which is called AWARE initiative, that will contribute to the goal of adaptation. And the initiative is set to contribute to the successful outcome of the 2023 UN Conference on Water. I wanted to share with you more than this, but due to time, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Salit. That was very, very good of you to be considered for time constraints. In fact, I would like to conclude by thanking all our speakers, Minister Miriam Dalli, Vangelis, Konstantinos, Charles Buttigieg, Barbara, and also Dr. Tahini Salit. And to say that Malta has just endorsed also the AWARE initiative, and we're all happy that so many of our colleagues, Mediterranean colleagues, are working so hard in establishing this nexus we have been talking about today. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here, and thank you to the Mediterranean Pavilion for hosting us. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.